All right, we're going for day two here. Today I'm going to be looking at something that's kind of been hitting me a little bit lately is obedience versus idolizing something. Sometimes God can call us to things or give us a vision of something or kind of just speak in our spirit that, this is something that you need to do. Whether it's a job or going to school somewhere or a spouse or a ministry. God will speak those things to us, especially if they're important things. He'll kind of nudge us in those directions. You think about Abraham. Abraham in the Bible in Genesis had a vision. God appeared to Abraham in a vision and said, "Hey, you're going to be basically you're going to be the father of many many nations. People will outnumber the stars. That you've led. Um, and and for Abraham, that didn't happen quickly. In fact, when he was called, his life was far from perfect. He had no children. His wife was barren. But yet God called him to leave his homeland and just journey with no clear plan of where or what. It's a pretty big call, pretty big vision, and it wasn't easy. It was never easy for Abraham in that vision. But what I want to get to today is Abraham never allowed the vision and the calling that God gave him to come ahead of God himself. What I mean by that? Okay, we get so excited, if we hear from the Lord, or we feel like the Lord has given us some leading, and that leading turns into our own idol, even though it's a good thing. Maybe God called someone to pastor a church, okay, or open a business, or build him a temple. All examples. But it doesn't happen right away. It isn't instant. It's not happening the moment God lets you know. Look at David. David was called to be king years and years and years in advance of it actually happening. But David never let that call to be king get ahead of his relationship with God. We can't let that call in our lives, the vision God has given us, the calling on our lives, to come ahead of God. It's hard to be patient. It's hard to sit back and say, yes, yes, Lord, in your time, not mine. But sometimes that's part of the call. That's part of the purpose of the timing of the call. It's easy to get a list and do it right then. That's easy. We're all on the same page. We're all working for the same goal. God wants us to be on the same page and work for the same goal. But after we've trained, after we've learned, after we've prepared ourselves, and part of that is, we may have to lay that calling, that vision, that plan that we feel like the Lord gave us. We have to lay it on the altar and say, God, you've given me this, and I want this, but I want you more. I'm not going to let this get ahead of you. And I'll tell you what, if we can do that the way that Abraham was able to put Isaac on the altar, God will. I almost never say always or never, but that shows that we're spiritually in the right spot to get that brought back to us. God will return that thing off the altar and give it back to us. Probably better than we received it and gave it back. So yeah, Abraham was called to be the father of many nations. He had no kids. Finally had a son, Isaac, and God said, "Take your son, take him up on a mountain, and sacrifice him to me." And Abraham didn't hee-haw for days. He didn't think about it for 6 months. He didn't come up with every other way to get around doing it. In obedience, in right relationship to God, the vision calling that he had, that Isaac was the key to. Isaac was the key to everything that God was doing in Abraham's life. Isaac was the key to it. And God said, "Give me Isaac back." And Abraham said, "Okay." Got up early the next morning, went up on the mountain, and you know the story. God provided a ram or a lamb in the thicket and saved Isaac. But God was testing the faith. He was testing Abraham's order of operation. Is the calling that you've received, Abraham, the most important thing to you, or am I? And Abraham passed big time with flying colors. So that's the word for today. Is no matter what your thing is, no matter what good thing, being a parent, your like a career, a calling in ministry, whatever your thing is that God has led you to, is that your idol? Is that what you put first in your life, or is God still number one? And whatever He does beyond that is well with your soul, to steal a song lyric there. So, good things to ponder this morning, I hope. That's Genesis 22 talks about Abraham's faith is tested. Keep track of those orders. What's number one? Is it God always, no matter what, or has something that God has given you become an idol in your life? All right, be well. Have a good day.